Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Is a new head coaching candidate entering the picture and perhaps at or near the top of the list for the Bears? Plus, what is the latest chatter on Ben Johnson? We're going to discuss those things coming up here on today's show. And listen, everyone's nervous. Everyone's edgy. They want to get this right. Let's do our part. Let's send the Bears some good energy, some good mojo, good vibes. Hit that like button if you want the Bears to get this right and if you want to show some love because you got to get this right, man. Let's get a good head coach in here. Hit that like button on today's show. Okay, let's talk Mike McCarthy. That's the topic of the Monday NFL news cycle. He is out in Dallas after 8 days of reviewing and having discussions with the Joneses in Dallas. McCarthy and the Cowboys part ways. He is free to speak with other teams immediately about their head coaching vacancies, as outside of Dallas now, there are 5 current openings, including the Chicago Bears, who we know are interested because they put in an interview request for him last week, which Dallas initially denied, as Jerry Jones and the Cowboys were potentially going to bring him back. Obviously, that is not going to happen now, so I would expect an interview to happen, honestly, within 72 hours because he's not on a coaching staff in the playoffs. You could bring him into your building if you want to. We'll see if they would do a virtual or in person, but we know they're interested, so I think an interview will take place in the very, very near future. Now, Adam Schefter today on the Pat McAfee show said this regarding Mike McCarthy. He said, I think Mike will be a strong candidate in Chicago and New Orleans. That's going to have implications for other jobs and candidates. To me, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are going to get jobs. McCarthy now gets into the mix, and he'll be in play in Chicago and New Orleans. I also think the Jets will jump in here for Mike, considering they're interviewing guys like Mike Locksley, but we'll wait and see. And look, you guys need to prepare yourselves. If the Bears don't get Ben Johnson, Mike McCarthy will firmly be in the mix. He might even be in the mix regardless. For this head coaching job because he checks a lot of the boxes that the Bears say they are looking for. Proven guy. I think he fits the leader of men kind of checkbox where players love and respect him. He's done the job for 2 other teams at a pretty high level. He will be in the mix, whether you like it or not. And I think you guys should be open-minded to it for several reasons, which we'll talk about here in a second, because I think Bears, Twitter, and a lot of people out there, and I'm not calling anyone out, you could fan how you want to fan. I think they're more negative on McCarthy than really they should be based on the evidence we have. So stay tuned. We're going to kind of dive into that here in a second. But I just want to get your initial thoughts. If the Bears don't get Ben Johnson, would you take Mike McCarthy? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Pen comment on today's show. Would you take Mike McCarthy if the Bears do not get Ben Johnson? I think the answer to that should be yes. Now, does he necessarily need to be the number 2 guy on the Bears head coaching list, rankings, whatever you want to call it, after Ben Johnson? Not necessarily, but should he be in the mix of like that next tier of guys? Like entering the search, what was it? It was Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel for most people. Then it was like, you got this tier of 4 or 5 guys, Brian Flores, Pete Carroll entering the mix, Liam Cohen, who they still haven't requested to interview, Joe Brady, Todd Monken. Mike McCarthy is in that kind of tier for me. He just is. We have to stop acting like this guy can't coach. I don't know if it's because he was the Packers head coach. I don't know if it's because he had some playoff losses in Dallas that didn't look so great. He won 12 games 3 years in a row with Dallas before this year. And the job he did this year with Dallas with a beat-up team without Dak Prescott most of the year to get to 7 wins was honestly pretty damn impressive. This guy has a good resume. He's won 61% of his games. He's won 11 playoff games. 11-11 in the postseason is pretty good, guys. He won a Super Bowl. Yes, it was a while ago, but he's got that on his resume. He's been to 4 NFC Championship games in the NFC North, by the way, with the Green Bay Packers. 6 division titles with Green Bay, 2 with Dallas. He's experienced. He's won a lot. Is he flawless? No, he's not flawless. This guy can coach, though. Out of the 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL, if you rank them all and McCarthy's an active one, I promise you he's top half. He's top 15. Now, is he the 5th best head coach in the NFL? No. Could you argue he's plateaued and his best days aren't ahead of him? You could argue that. 12 wins 3 years in a row, though. If you're winning 12 games, you're a contender. Like, is it Mike McCarthy's fault a couple years ago when his team held San Francisco to 20 points and Dak Prescott shit the bed and threw 3 picks? What is that on Mike McCarthy? Is it on Mike McCarthy last year when Dan Quinn, who's a hell of a coach, obviously, gives up 48 points to the Green Bay Packers? Obviously, he has to carry blame. He's the head coach. He's not blameless in anything that happens. But to act like this guy can't coach, especially from a Bears lens, where guys like Matt Eberflus, Matt Nagy, and who's clearly been the best one recently, and Mark Trestman have been recent coaches. This is not John Fox, a third-time head coach who clearly had lost his fastball. Mike McCarthy's good. Is it a home run? Probably not. But is it a double? Is it a floor raiser? All the things we said about Mike Tomlin, that's basically Mike McCarthy on the offensive side of the football. It's basically the same thing. Go look at the resumes. Very, very similar. So I think you guys should be open-minded here. Now, if you don't want him, that's your call. Like, I'm not saying like it's the worst opinion of all time. I do think the data shows that it's kind of a bad way to look at it. Short-sighted is the phrase I'm looking for. Like, if you don't get Ben Johnson, who, let me be clear, I still want over Mike McCarthy, if they ended up with McCarthy, I think it's a B plus higher. I really do. He knows the division. He'll raise the floor. He's pretty solid, man. He really, really is. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Do you want to go to a Bears game next season? Do you want to go check out the Chicago Bulls or the Chicago Blackhawks? You're getting ready for spring training when the Cubs and White Sox get going. Want to go to a concert, comedy show? Game Time. Best place to get your tickets online is with the Game Time app. The link to download the app will be in the comments and in the description of this video. And there's so many cool features to Game Time. Toggle on Game Time picks. You're going to be able to filter out the fluff of thousands of tickets. Going to save you a lot of time. It'll kind of narrow down your search, give you price points on the map, the venue map, and you can kind of figure out, okay, these are in my budget, these are not. Which seats do I want? You can get super deals, which are the best bang for your buck on higher quality seats, which are awesome. You can toggle on all-in pricing so you don't get surprised at the end with random surplus charges. It's easy to navigate. It's very clear on how the process works, and you get your tickets in quick time. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Wait closer to the events. A lot of time those tickets are going to drop. Game Time has you covered. Download the app today, create an account, use promo code CHATSPORTS, all one word. That's going to get you $20 off your first purchase only. What time is it? It's game time. Okay, let's get to the latest on Ben Johnson after my Mike McCarthy rant. He has shut down his interview process until Detroit is eliminated from the playoffs. Now, I think technically he can't do further interviews until they're out anyway, or at least until a certain date. I'd have to double check on that. But this tweet from Jonathan Jones kind of makes it clear, like, he's full steam ahead with Detroit until they're out. He said, as I reported last night, Ben Johnson took all his interviews over the weekend and then shut it down as the Lions prepare for the divisional round. I would not expect anything for him to change as he is solely focused on the postseason. So, look, you're not going to get a second interview until they're out. This could be a long wait. Detroit's very good. They could go all the way to the Super Bowl. Like, the Super Bowl is, let me check the date here. Bowl date. It is on February 9th. So, what's that, 3 weeks away? Something like that. That's a long time. He's worth the wait. I would not hire anybody unless you've been told by his reps that there's no chance he comes to you. But teams are going to wait on this guy. Could this put a halt in the coaching cycle for a lot of these teams? I really think it could. Now, if Detroit loses next week, that timeline speeds up. But this is going to be one of those unique situations where the top guy on the market isn't really available until they're out of the playoffs. So stay tuned for that. Ben Johnson, next domino to fall potentially. Now, maybe a team like the Jets or Saints who aren't interviewing Johnson hire a head coach. Maybe Dallas doesn't wait to see if he's interested in them. Another mistake by Jerry Jones, not getting McCarthy out of the way if you were going to move on from him and at least get to interview Ben Johnson. But, you know, that's the Cowboys for you. But, yeah, with Ben Johnson right now, it's just kind of a waiting game until Detroit's out of the playoffs. So that's the reality of the situation. I think the significant part of it is he's not going to negotiate or even give a team a soft yes until Detroit is out. He is fully focused on the Lions playoff run, and quite frankly, that's how it should be. Like, he shouldn't be distracted by where he's going to go coach next. Okay, will the Bears land Ben Johnson? Predict it for us. Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Will Ben Johnson end up in Chicago? Okay, one more piece of news before we end this segment from Rap Sheet. Titans GM update several second interviews, including Ian Cunningham. They're going to bring him back for a second interview. He was a finalist 2 years ago when they hired Rand Carthen. It would appear he's going to be a finalist again. If you get a second interview, that kind of means you're a finalist. So stay tuned for that. Now, seems like they're going to have 3 to 5 guys get second interviews there. So I can't sit here and say he's the favorite or anything like that. But if he's a finalist for a second time, that would lead one to believe that he's got a pretty good shot of getting that gig. And again, if he does, extra third-round pick this year, extra third-round pick next year. So you would certainly get some extra draft capital, which would be a benefit if you lost Ian Cunningham. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Just be open-minded to Mike McCarthy. That's my advice. Not saying he needs to be your top guy or anything like that. Ben Johnson's still mine, but after that, it's not like there's any guarantees. And by the way, that's true with Johnson, but I do think he's worth the risk. My name is Harrison Graham. Hit that sub button and bear down.